God is glorious, so we don't have to fear others or look elsewhere for approval. That is a truth that is beautiful. We don't need to try and prove or explain or debate whether or not that is true. The Bible simply tells us, and through experience we have got to know that that is true. And it's pretty clear that through the Bible, the best way for us to see God's glory is in Jesus. 2 Corinthians 4:6 says this, "For God who said, 'Let there be light in the darkness,' has made this light shine in our hearts so that we could know the glory of God that is seen in the face of Jesus Christ." Or Hebrews 1:3 says this, "The Son is the radiance of God's glory, the exact representation of his being, sustaining all things by his powerful word." If God is glorious, meaning that he is the most important influential power in the universe, then by definition, his thoughts, his opinions, the way that he sees things would have the biggest sway or the biggest effect on anyone who knows him. How he sees us, what he says about us would heavily influence how we see ourselves. And for those he has adopted as his children, in his family because of what Jesus has done, we can say with confidence that God has a very high affinity for his children. You can look in 1 John 3, verse 1 and 2, Ephesians chapter 2, verse 11 through 20, Galatians 4, verse 5 through 7. All these verses remind us of this truth. But there's one I want to highlight. It's in Zephaniah. Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 17. Listen to this. This is God's opinion of his children. "For the Lord your God lives among you. He is a mighty Savior. He will take delight in you with gladness. With his love, he will calm all your fears. He will rejoice over you with joyful songs." That is how this glorious God sees his children. When we believe lies, we actually turn away from God's truth. We begin to crave other people's approval. We feel like we need the acceptance of friends or popular or influential people, maybe parents or other people we look up to. And when this happens, we're actually controlled by them and their opinions of us. And we begin to fear their rejection. We begin to fear their disapproval or fear the way that they now see us. And what we do is we act accordingly based on that fear. The Bible calls this fear the fear of man. In Proverbs 29, verse 25, it says, "The fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts the Lord is kept safe." The answer to this fear of what others think is to take our eyes off of others and put it back onto our loving Father. His glory eclipses every other opinion that's out there. We need a bigger, better, more truthful, glorious view of God. His approval deserves to hold the most sway in our lives, to be the weightiest influence in our hearts when we are making decisions, when we're thinking about the future. How he sees us should be a major factor in that. I want you to think of a person in your life that you most fear rejection from or desperately seek their approval. Now, I want you to picture Jesus standing beside them, looking at you, with his arms open wide, singing of how God designed you and celebrating you and your adoption into his family as sons and daughters of the King. When we have that view of this glorious God, we can freely and truthfully say God is glorious, so we don't have to fear others or look elsewhere for approval.